Sunday. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of True Story Live, the Easter edition. For those of you that celebrate that, happy Easter. Hope you had a good day with your family and you spent time celebrating however you like to celebrate. And certainly for those in the Christian world, it is a choice to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus on this day. And we definitely still celebrate that. But we understand that not everyone does, and that's okay. I prefer the term Resurrection Sunday. It's more about the spiritual aspect of Easter to me, rather than the bunny and the eggs. Although I have no personal issue with all of that stuff, it just is something fun that kids do, and it's never bothered me. But yeah, lots of pagan roots and all that, just like all the other holidays that exist, a mixture of secular and religious, all mushed up into one thing. But to me, as Paul said, as far as the keeping of holidays or the not keeping of holidays, we have liberty in Christ. And so you can celebrate it if you want. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. That's the beauty of it. Anyway, tonight's topic is Keep On Keepin On, and this one was written by Marisa, Nez Lover of the Nez Lover channel. And we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes, but we're excited to get into that right up in just a minute. First, we'll say hello to all of our people in the chats. And because this is a holiday right now, it looks like there's 0 people in the chats, which I understand. A lot of our listeners are in the Christian persuasion, and so a lot of them might be enjoying time with their families. So this will be here for people to listen to. I'm sure someone will show up eventually, but this will be for the playback. If you enjoyed your Easter and wanted to listen to True Story Live, didn't want to miss anything, then we'll have it here for you guys. So thank you for that. All right. We'll say hello to everyone on the panel. For those listening for the first time, my name's Jason. I'm the host of the broadcast, and also with me, I have a wonderful supporting cast, my fellow panel members, and we'll start with the writer-up, the writer-upper of the write-up, the writer of the write-up, Marisa Nez. And also, we don't know for sure if this is the actual day, but we're choosing to celebrate the first year, been an entire year in the month of April that we've had Marisa on the True Story Live channel. So it is celebration all the way around, and let's say hello. Let's hear hello for everyone from Nez. Nez, take a minute, say hello to everyone if you would.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Happy Passover. Christ is risen, and we can celebrate that every single day if we want to.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. Hello, Nikki. I saw you sneak on in there. Yes, thank you so much. I'm going to consider it a year at this point. I don't remember when exactly last April, but 1 year with TSL, and I couldn't be happier and more pleased. And I'm glad they didn't boot me off of the panel.
Nervous laughter coming from Jen.
1 year I've made it without getting cut. Let's see if we can go for 2. All right. Woo! I don't know. Thank you, everybody who's come to join us. Thank you, everyone who might be lurking and not participating in the chat. And we certainly invite you to participate in the chat. And we want to say thank you to everyone who catches the replay. If you could take a moment, if you're so inclined, to please share it out on your social media, we'd certainly appreciate that. And if you ever have any questions, comments, or suggestions for things to talk about here on TSL, contact any one of us and we will get back to you. Thank you so much. Yes, I had a good time doing the write-up, and I cannot wait to get hip deep in keeping on and keeping on. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. Let's hear from Jen. Jen, take a second to say hello to everyone, if you would, please.
All righty. I got my tea and Nez and her beautiful voice and laugh, and I still think you could be in radio, girl. My goodness.
Thank you so much.
You have such an easy charisma with being live. It's just wonderful. I love it.
Thank you.
It's inspiring. So we're glad you've been with us a year, Nez, and we're glad to be here. Glad to hear Nez's write-up coming through the voice of Crips. I think that's what we decided. And lovely topic, and just can't wait to see what you do with it. Glad Glenn's here, and glad to be here. Really glad to be here. Jason and I have a 4-day weekend, so we had Friday, Saturday, today, and tomorrow off. So it's been really wonderful. And we still have a Christmas tree on our floor wrapped into sheets like a dead body. Please don't judge us.
Too late for that. You're already judged.
We're like Easter. We're going to sneak it to the roll-off. That'll be fun. That's our date for the evening. The celebration 1 year for Marie's. Anyway, get your.
Hey, babe, your phone's cutting up again. I don't know if it's doing that Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay. I thought I lost you. I just said it's great to be here. Next.
That's great. Thank you. All right, let's hear from last but certainly not least, our friend from Australia, Glenn. Glenn, take a minute and say hello to everyone if you would.
Howdy.
Short and sweet. Short and sweet.
Our resident minimalist, Glenn. Thank you.
Yes. A man of big hearts and little words. Sometimes he's got a lot to say.
Well, if you got nothing to say, keep your mouth shut.
There you go. Yeah. We know that when you've had a lot to say, you do share, and it's a privilege, really.
I'm selective.
Yes, I like that.
That's right. Selective is
anyway,
okay.
Happy Easter, you guys. I think it's
Yeah,
Easter
thanks,
here.
Glenn.
I saw some eggs in the shop.
Ah,
Discounted now, of course, because
it's Monday there.
That's true. 9 o'clock in the morning.
All right.
And it's clear as crystal. No pollution here.
Lovely.
Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, we're excited about the write-up tonight. And while we've been doing our hellos, I've been trying to see what the actual date was that Marisa started. I was getting closer and closer, but some of them you can kind of hover over it and it'll show the screen as there's either 4 or 3 people in it. But every time I go back to look at it, when I see that it's not there, it scrolls down. So I have to kind of start over again. Looks like, okay. It looks like the first one was, let's see, 11 months ago. April 24th. That's all right. So we can still celebrate. So it's the day after my birthday. Now I'll clarify that. I'm just kind of, monkeying around in there, but I could be wrong. So that's not exact, but I just hovered over the ones that had the 3 of us. And then the first one that I saw was April 24th, but
all right.
I'll double check that, but
we'll just celebrate the month.
I think we can celebrate the month. It's close enough to a year, and we're glad to have Nez, and we're definitely grateful for her feedback on all the broadcasts, and certainly in terms of the write-ups and from a different perspective. I've said a few times that all 4 of us may not agree on everything, but we agree on a lot of things. And one of the things I think we agree on most is the goal of True Story Live, and Nez has brought an agreement with that to us. She cares about people. She has a lot of friends that have been brought over from her broadcast and her channel, and she seems to really delight in that. And so it's been really good to have a 4th person, and it's really been a great year in my opinion, and we hope for more. She was joking about not having been cut, but there's no reason to cut anyone that's so agreeable and has rolled with the punches, so to speak, and does a great job. So we look forward to more. Thank you, Nez, for being here with us for this amount of time. And here's to more.
Thanks for putting up with us.
Oh, thank you guys. I love y'all. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Jen, there are a few people in the chat. If you could take a minute and say hello to everyone, and then we'll get started.
Sure. We've got me, most important person in the world. Just kidding. Jamie Grace is in. Hey, Jamie. Jamie just finally found a car. She's been praying about that for a while. We've been praying with her, and we're super excited about her new wheels. We have got Debbie S in here, Naughty Nicky, and that's it so far. Nez is also in the chat. No Glenn yet. He's sleeping on the job. But good to see you guys here. So great to be here, and glad you guys are here. So all right, we're good to go.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your Easter with us. Like I said at the beginning, I hope everyone who celebrates it was able to enjoy the day that we choose to celebrate the resurrection of our Savior. All right, let's get started. Keep on keeping on. We will say hello to everyone as new people pop in the chat as we get a chance. So tonight's song is Keep On Keepin' On by Michael Nesmith.
The car. She's been praying about that for a while.
Oh, sorry. I hit a wrong button.
Right. I was like, is that me?
Keep my fingers off my buttons. Oh, when will I learn? Okay.
The link to that song is in the chat, and Nez begins. It gets overwhelming at times to carry on and keep on. Between family, friends, work, school, and other normal obligations and commitments, the load can start to weigh us down. Sometimes we can get burdened down with all the things we must do. We neglect to make time for ourselves and perhaps get to do something we simply enjoy. Other times, we might find ourselves lost in something we enjoy at the cost of putting off other less than fun but necessary activities and tasks. Guilt and fear can be behind the reasons we have or excuses we have to get done what we set out to do. There are even times when we feel like giving up on a project, a task, a relationship, or even ourselves, and sometimes even on God. Some quotes. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. James 1:12 KJV. And not only so, but we glory in tribulations also, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, patience experience, and experience hope. Romans 5:3 and 4 KJV. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Galatians 6:9 KJV. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. Mary Ann Rockmacher. Fall 7 times and stand up 8. Japanese proverb. A failure is not always a mistake. It may simply be the best one can do under the circumstances. The real mistake is to stop trying. B.F. Skinner. It does not matter how slowly you go, so long as you do not stop. Confucius. Dripping water hollows out stone, not through force, but through persistence. Ovid. If it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. Marcus Aurelius. The best way out is always through. Robert Frost. Go as far as you can see. When you get there, you'll be able to see farther. Thomas Carlyle. Great ones are willing to get burned time and again as they sharpen their sword in the fire. And that's by Josh Watkin. Show up. Show up when it's hard. Show up when you're scared. Just keep showing up. Show them your truth. Do it by showing up and not backing down. David Cancel. Somebody out there thinks you're an idiot. Somebody out there thinks you're brilliant. Ignore them both and carry on. Jack Butcher. If his decision is correct, he will win the battle, even if it lasts longer than expected. If his decision is wrong, he will be defeated and he will have to start all over again. Only this time with more wisdom. But once he has started, a warrior of the light perseveres until the end. That's by our friend, of course, Paulo Coelho. There we go. All right. So many times in my life, I gave up when I should not have. There are times, however, that I return to something that I had previously given up only to keep at it and find that it just needed the time and effort to match up to the dream. My art comes to mind. When I discovered that I could go online and make and share my art, it rocked my world. An artist who was going live each night and having fun making art, singing, interacting with people, had lit the fire of inspiration that I had once thought completely extinguished. I wanted to do what they were doing. They were living my dream. And so I started out dusting off art supplies that had been in storage. I started making the time, even if it was just a few minutes a day, doing something artistic, anything. The more I did that, the more art came forth. During the disturbing circumstance of becoming homeless and moving into a shelter, I saw the window of opportunity open wide to possibility. I started going live after my daughter went to bed to make art, sing, and spend time with people who appreciated that. I'm still doing it, and it has been a wonderful experience doing commissions, making gifts, selling pieces, collaborating with other people, and leading me to meet other wonderful artists like our very own Jen. Still on this artistic journey, loving it, going to keep on. Thank you, Jesus. More quotes. What is some? Oh, those are questions, right? Yeah. Notice the color coded that is in there, Crips. Okay. These are questions. What is something you enjoy doing that you just don't seem to get to do much anymore, and why? What brings you to the place of feeling like giving up? How do you deal with it? Given that there is no such thing as coincidence, what purpose do obstacles and adversity serve, particularly regarding things we wish to accomplish? Is a waste of time something that distracts us or something we have yet to learn from? Can we learn from things that appear to waste our time? What have you put the time and energy into and gotten a far different result than you anticipated or imagined? Was it worth it? What advice do you have for others not to give up? What is the best advice someone gave you when you wanted to give up? At this point, all I can say is one day at a time, and thank you, Jesus. And it finishes with a quote: be brave, take risks. Nothing can substitute experience. And that's our friend Poirot again. And that is the write up, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Thank you. All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. I love hearing people's stories. And this is part of what we do here, telling stories. And I believe that Naz is very much a storyteller, and this is her story. I like also that she's willing to be transparent and share things from herself. We all do that on the broadcast. We all share, from our hearts, because a lot of the questions, they dig deep. And in order to get to the bottom of things, it's my opinion that you have to be willing to share. You have to be willing to be transparent. And I'm really, honestly, I can learn from people that are willing to do that. I can't learn as much from people that just tell you what you should do, and there's no sharing from how they learned to do it or what they struggled with. I found that true with pastors. I prefer a sermon where the person preaching the sermon use an anecdote from their own life or a way that they weren't doing it right, and how they got to the point they're at now. It's really few and far between. There have been several over the years that I have run into, or a public speaker, the TED Talk, where the person is just telling you how things should be in their opinion, and there's nothing about their own struggles. There's nothing personal that they share. I find it hard to trust people that don't share from their own experiences. They just do. Maybe not everybody has an issue with that, but that's my issue. Pualo Quello. All right.
There you go.
There I go. I sense an implication that I didn't do it right the first two times. I'm sensing that.
Where are you getting that from?
Oh, I love you. All right, we're going to dive right in. I look to see if there's anyone else in the chat, and not so far, but we will keep an eye on that. But again, thank you for all that have joined on your Easter. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with us. We appreciate it. All right, first question. What is something you enjoy doing that you just don't seem to get to do much anymore, and why? Jen.
Yeah.
Dig into that one. What is something you enjoy doing that you just don't seem to get to do much anymore, and why?
Which one to choose?
Oh, are there several?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'd say getting out in nature. I haven't been doing that much. I feel like the last 3 years have been more of a indoor recluse, and I need to set aside time. We have some great parks around here in Fort Mill, but you have to have like a paid membership to go into them. I'm sure there's some that aren't paid, but the really pretty ones are paid because I worked for one of them for like a year. Yeah, and I just need to set aside time. I think there is something that we can garner from being outdoors and taking a walk. And I love photography, and that's kind of linked into that. I love doing nature photography, especially macro photography. And I do have a camera, but it's been collecting dust, so I need to make some time for that. There's a type of peace and even inspiration art wise that comes from being outdoors and just peace. There's like a certain kind of peace,
Sure.
at least for me, that I get from being outdoors. The sounds, the smells, the sights, the colors, the wildlife, even the bugs. I like bugs, most bugs. So, yeah, that's one thing that came to mind when you were reading the write up.
Yeah.
For sure, need to make the time.
Okay. Can you
Is
think
that
of
both
another
questions? Another one, I would put art in that category. I've definitely art and writing, been doing the live streams with Nez, and that's been wonderful. But I want to go deeper with that. I'd like to do more, and more spare time. And I have this week off. The family that I nanny for, excuse me, they're down on a cruise this week, and so I have a lot of time. So perfect time. Nothing like the present to get out there and do some things that I've been wanting to get more, back into, or get more into. So
yeah.
And I'm not lacking ideas, but I'm not struggling with the fear anymore. You know what I mean? I think it's just the being intentional about sitting down, and then also being okay that if I sit down and I start something and it doesn't, sometimes I'll do something and it doesn't look quite like I had it in my head.
Yeah.
To be okay with it, to try again or move on to another idea. So still working on the self-criticism. It's definitely not as mean and bad as it has been in the past.
Right.
But I think actually doing the art as I'm working on the internal, how I talk to myself, what I think, it's a great way to practice, just jumping into it. And Nez, as I've told her many times, she's been a great support. Because honestly, the first few times I did the art streams with her, I was very nervous. I think I shared with Jason, there was a few times that I really did like what I had done, but there was a part of me that had disassociated from my art. And if it was well done, if I finished and it was well done, it was almost like I wasn't connecting to the fact that I did it, which may sound really woo-woo and really weird, and I don't understand that quite yet. But I think that's also been a little bit of a damper on it, because I'm like, I want to connect with it. I want to be proud of myself, but there's like a little bit of a disconnect there. So that was a long-winded answer. Thanks for listening.
No, that's okay. So you did mention two things. So the second part of the question is, why do you think you're not doing these things that you mentioned?
Oh, well, the first one, going outdoors and doing photography, I need to be more intentional with my time off. I need to get off of electronics and get in the car and drive somewhere to a free park and just go out, and even if it's just 20 minutes, I mean, it doesn't have to be hours, like an hour-long hike up a mountain or anything.
Yeah.
But I just need to
Yeah.
be intentional. And we've been praying a lot for me to meet some friends here locally. Like I have Shannon and another friend, Cassie, but we don't hang out super often. But I think sometimes I'd like to go with somebody, Jason. so having more friends would benefit, but I don't mind being by myself either. So yeah, it's just being more intentional about just getting out and doing it.
Okay. Well, that's good. Thank you for
Yeah.
your time with that. I don't want to make this whole broadcast be about art, but I find it interesting that the overall idea is, perseverance, staying with something that
Yeah.
Nez is writing about here. And as I said, she did share from her own life. So what I want to point out is that she shares in this write-up that she struggled with her doing her art, and she has some good reasons. I mean, part of the thing about being homeless is, I mean, who wants to, first of all, is it even an option from a shelter to go live? I don't think it is. Doesn't mean you can't draw on a notebook or something like that, but I just see the motivation as being very different in that type of situation. But this is her story. This is part of her story, and she started going live, as she says, little by little. And then because she went through that, because she went through this place of deciding to persevere and keep on keeping on, then and it doesn't surprise me, but it just amazes me that that's the area that she feels so strong to me in, and encouraging other people to do the same.
Yeah.
And this is biblical. There's the idea of being healed by God and recovering in this world, and then helping someone else go through the same thing that you went through and were healed from. And I think this is a greater idea of how we should be as humans in this world. When we go through something and we learn from it, and we see someone else struggling in the same area, if possible, we help them as much as we can. And this is part, I believe, when people stand before Jesus, and then he says, you gave me water when I needed it, and food and shelter, and it's just giving someone what they have need of, if you're able to do so. And when did they not do it? When they didn't do it to the least of them. It seems throughout all Scripture, and it's not just Scripture. It's within the concept. I believe it's in the framework of us as humans. When we're children, we know to do things for others. We don't see color. We don't see race. We don't see gender. Those things, I believe, are taught to us. We just see another person that we want to get to know. And helping them, especially with things that we've struggled with, I think is a good thing. Helping someone else keep on keeping on is, to me, a great concept. So thank you for your answer, Jen.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Let's hear from Glenn. Sorry. Glenn, what is something you enjoy doing that you just don't seem to do much anymore? And I'm going to keep a mental guess of what it is that you're going to say, and I'll tell you whether I was right after you answer.
Well, the why is pretty obvious. That's I would call circumstances. Look,
as to the why?
Yeah, the why.
The why.
It's situational. But look, there's something I never really thought about, because I just adapt to the situation, and so. But the two things would obviously be travel and being out with the horses.
Yeah.
And we can't travel for the reason of Sandra's health, because she can barely leave the house.
Right.
And we don't have the cash so that would be a secondary impediment. And the horses are where I can go easily do that with my mate is up a long way from where we live now.
Oh, okay.
Oh man.
So it's but I've traveled a lot. I've done a lot of horses for decades. I mean, I've had a fantastic run. I mean, I can't complain. So it's not really about. It's not really about I feel that I'm not doing it because I'm just found something different to enjoy. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great point.
Yeah, so I was right about the traveling, and it's only because I mean it's not a hard guess. I mean you talk about travel, you have in the past quite a bit on the broadcast, especially. It's something that you really enjoy.
Oh, very much so. Well, Jonathan, I've got the frequent flyer points to go somewhere, but right now it's just you can't get the flights. And Jonathan wanted to come to the USA and do stuff, and then he sort of started to get cold feet.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, look, Dad, I really need to get out of my comfort zone." And so I said, "Well, look, I can find places like that real quick."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that plan is on the back burner. They got other things in their life, but so I've got things on the table.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, how far are the horses from where you live now?
Oh, probably 12-hour drive.
Oh, 12-hour drive. Oh,
well, that's where my mate has all these horses. See, only 30 miles down the road is the horse stud that I used to have. Oh, brood mares and foals, and we had a stallion, but that is all wound up now. That's been wound up for like 20 years.
Oh, okay.
What does that mean, wound up?
Well, it doesn't operate anymore.
Right.
Oh,
because the lady who ran it who died.
From
liver cancer.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I remember you mentioning that.
So,
yeah.
And if she was there now, I'd be spending all my time down there and probably neglecting Sandra.
Oh, no.
No, I wouldn't, but you know what I mean. I'd be there every 5 minutes. I would never get any work done. I'd be down with her and we'd be out in the paddocks doing stuff.
So Glenn, go ahead.
The universe provides. Go ahead, Jen.
I was just curious because I've never asked you this before. What's your draw to horses? Is it the animal itself and just being around them and the smells and riding them, or is it something different or something else?
Well, I grew up in the racehorse area of Brisbane, so I was with I had horses all around me as a kid.
Yeah,
as a child, so I just grew up with it. Then I went racing with my dad. He's my grandfather. And then I went and got into breeding horses, and then I was doing horse genetics. And
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. And now my good mate has lots of horses, and he rings me up and we have a chat and we discuss issues with horses, and I give him feedback. We're both reasonably smart, including we're not actual hands-on so much because you can't be, but we're quite knowledgeable about and I'm learning heaps about the actual horse itself.
From
the
that's
practitioners that he has to the horses, the chiropractors and the vets,
and
different techniques that they're using for performance animals.
So he's got a lot of horses but no Glenn. That's a bummer.
No, I'd be there. See, I'd be there too every day, and I wouldn't do any work.
It's just a 12-hour commute, Sandra. That's not that big of a deal.
No, I can't do that.
Yeah. That was sarcasm.
I caught it.
Okay, good.
Got it.
I love Sandra.
Not a problem.
Thank you for sharing that, Glenn. That's very interesting. I know Jen likes horses probably more than I do, but I'm fascinated by them just in general. And you still watch the races. I realize it's not in person. You don't have the same type, but you watch the races a lot on television, right?
Oh yeah, I bet on the races all the time. You bet.
Yeah,
it's huge in Australia. So the coverage is fantastic. It's
wonderful.
Now, forgive me if I misunderstand this, but so is there a place closer by that you could just go to watch a race, or is that what you mean is the 12-hour trip, the closest?
Oh no! The closest place where they had races yesterday is Mudgee, which is just 45-minute drive from here. But for me to leave the house and stuff, I think you understand is not that easy.
Yeah.
Well,
it's easier for me to sit here and watch it on the computer.
I have a future plan in place. We'll see if it ever comes.
I'll see if it's matching mine.
Yeah,
that's why you have to come to us, and we won't be coming back to you.
right. Yeah, we will be doing that.
Excellent. Then I'll take you to the races that is local.
I would love to do that with you.
No, he's taking me. You can stay with Sandra, Jason.
Okay, that makes sense.
We can take turns.
We can do both. Who says that?
One day.
We just have to prepare her. She can come, no problem at all.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
We just have to do the requisite, sort of stuff to help her be able to leave the house. But
of course,
awesome.
We can. We deal with it. It's like everything else. You deal with issues as they come up.
Yeah.
Yep. Just be prepared.
If we can drive through in a 4-wheel drive through Africa with Sandra having been stroked out, we can go to the races down here.
There you go. I apologize to anyone listening that just seems like this is a conversation, I think it's wonderful and fascinating. So thank you, Glenn, for your answer. I appreciate that. I'm going to go next, and since Nez asked the question, we won't do this every time, but we'll hear from her last on this one. But what is something you enjoy doing that you just don't seem to get to do much anymore, and why? There are a handful of things. I'm an avid pool player. Billiards, 9-ball, 8-ball, whatever. And it's something I have enjoyed doing, and I haven't done it probably in, I don't know, maybe 8 years, something like that.
Wow.
I enjoy going out and doing that, in the public with music and stuff like that. I enjoy going to a friend's house if they have a pool table and doing it that way. Whatever. It just, I wouldn't be able to compete in, professional pool playing tournaments or anything like that, but I've done a couple bar tournaments and things like that, and I've won some money here and there, and certainly betting just some drunk guy in a bar, that happened all the time in the past, and sometimes I'd win, sometimes I'd lose, but it's more the enjoyment of it. That's something that came to mind when we were talking about this. And really, honestly, as to the why, there really isn't any reason other than I enjoy spending time with Jen. We've talked about going out more, but we haven't had the money until we're just getting to the point where, with my job and Jen's job and we were pretty far behind with a lot of things, and we're in the process of getting caught up. But eventually we will have more money to go do things like that. And that's one of the things that on the top of my list is Jen and I going and playing some pool somewhere public, in a billiard room or a restaurant that has pool tables. And there's several in the area that we could choose from. So that's on the list. Not as much as the playing pool, but bowling. I'm an average bowler, I would say, but it is something I have enjoyed in the past. As I've gotten older, it kind of throws my back out from time to time. I have to be very careful how I do it, but that, and again, that's outside the house activity. And as Jen was mentioning, when we moved in here, and a lot of it was just getting to know each other, and both of us seem to be very content just staying at home. But both of us also we enjoy getting out. And we just haven't been able to do it. But that is an excuse. I mean, the thing that Jen mentioned, going outside and taking a walk in the park, I'm sure for those parks that charge something, I'm sure it's very affordable. So to me, and I'm throwing myself under the bus here, not Jen, but I think that we don't do things that we enjoy doing sometimes, and money's not always the reason for it. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. To me, it's the point of, if it's important to you, making the time for it, if at all possible. And so I feel very challenged by this. We should do the things. I don't want to should on ourselves, but we should do the things that we enjoy doing, or make time for it if it's important. And I think that's part of the human existence. I think it makes you a more well-rounded person. And so thank you, Nez. I endeavor to do more in those areas. There's a couple more, like writing. Used to write all the time on anything that was available, envelopes and menus, and everywhere I went, I carried a notebook with me, and short stories, ideas for movies and songs. I wrote song lyrics. I can't play an instrument to save my life, but I enjoy lyric writing, things like that. And it's just something that over the years I just haven't done it as much. The last thing is something I've gotten back into. I really love music, all different kinds of music. And it's not that I haven't listened to any, but more recently, over the past several months, I have found myself listening to music again. Sometimes I would just put music on and do something else at the same time. And that's kind of been circumvented by listening to a lot of, I've been doing a lot of research over the past couple of years, and I enjoy listening to YouTube broadcasts and things, and that's taken up a lot of my time. So I endeavor to do more with the writing, with playing pool, occasionally bowling and things like that, and getting out of the house. And Jen, just for the record, I'd be happy to go to a park with you. I have no issue
Wonderful.
whatsoever. I do like being outdoors more than I have done, and I think that we're coming to a place in our life where we can make that a priority, and I'm looking forward to it. All right, thank you for the long-winded answers, Jason. But there it is. Let's hear from Nez. Nez, what is something you enjoy doing that you just don't seem to do much anymore, and why?
I used to enjoy traveling, and since having Diana and being there for her like 99% of the time, it just really, traveling just means going to another town. But I miss going on little trips. I miss seeing new places and meeting new people and trying new things. And it's just something that I think I really need to work a little. And it's not just money. I mean, money is an issue. Oh, hold on, baby. I got Diana right here.
Okay. Yeah.
All
All right.
Let me give you my answer. But
Tell Diana hi from us.
I need to work on. Oh, Diana, they say hi.
Okay.
It really is a matter of time management as well as saving up money. And now that Diana's older, yes, now that Diana's older, it's easier to have her dad and his family, feasibly watch her for a significant period of time. So I'm still kind of getting used to that, It's a little hard to give myself permission to go out and do things like that, but I think, how bad do I want it? Well, I really want it. So that means I've got to do what I need to do to help make it happen. So that's what I miss. You guys go on without me. I got to get her a little bit of water. I'll be right back.
Of course.
But thank you guys for all your answers. I learned something new about all of you with your last round of answers. Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. So please
continue. Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Naz. Appreciate that. Yeah, this is what we do on this podcast, is to set up a series of questions, a little bit of a narrative to go from, and you can learn a lot about people when they answer questions. I think they're great. They're wonderful. All right. Next question. What brings you to the place of feeling like giving up? How much do you deal with it? Let's see. Let's start with Glenn on this. What brings you to a place of feeling like giving up? How do you deal with that, if that ever happens with you, Glenn?
I don't think it's ever happened, to be honest. I think I can understand why it would, why like people in chronic pain or things like that would be would get to the end of their rope, or you've got terminal cancer, or all of those things health related. But personally, I've been extremely fortunate, and I've not ever been close to the end of my tether, so I really can't say how I dealt with it, because I haven't had to.
Right. You think it's part of someone's personality? Or, I mean, you mentioned a couple of reasons why you can see that someone would get to a place of giving up, but have you ever thought about what that might be? Why have you never felt like that and someone else might?
Well, I haven't been as unfortunate as some people, for a start. I mean, that's not to say it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
I mean, we're all going down.
Yeah.
And I'm closer than anyone here, probably. So,
well, barring some
on the probability, probability. So, it is. It's just one of those things. I think sometimes it looks like some people just draw the short straw.
Yeah. It does seem that way to me.
And like I've seen my son wanting to kill himself, and it's not pretty.
No.
So, yeah, what can you say? Really, it is a very individual thing. Some people are so unbelievably strong. You look at them with amazing admiration. They can have, so much adversity, but somehow they're tough as old boots, and other people are just full to bits, and you never really know until you get there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Glenn. I've been looking at this anagrams thing that has become really popular over the past year or so. I mean, it's been around for a while. In fact, it went back to the times of Pythagoras and Origin, and it's been around for a while, but it's really popular. And it has a kind of a test or a way to see what kind of personality you have and how that mixes with your ego and things like that. And it's very eye-opening. And I'm just learning about it. I literally just dove in a little bit to it today. I'd heard about it before, and Jen's brought it up a few times. It doesn't answer. It's not an answer to every question, but it really makes you think about the personality of a person mixed with their experiences and what would lead someone to get to the point of feeling like giving up. I just thought I'd throw that in there, but I like, Glenn, that you put it in your answer. I think it's important to realize that even if you haven't been to this place, you gave empathy toward those people that you can understand why people would come to that place or feel like giving up. You can't know what someone has gone through. We've talked about that a lot. You don't know someone's story unless they tell you. It's easy to judge people that are homeless or someone that makes poor choices, drug addiction, whatever it might be. But unless there was a mind meld or something, or unless they told you, you would have no idea to be able to come to an understanding of why it ends that way for people. They get to the place feeling like giving up. So just keep that in mind. What do you think, Jen? What brings you to a place of feeling like giving up? How do you deal with it?
It's interesting because my brain kind of went to a different place. Like we've talked about on the show before about feeling like we need to prove ourselves to other people.
Sure.
And so when I heard giving up, I thought about that, like giving up, trying to prove things to other people, which is, I think it's a good thing.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a negative spin, give up. I don't think there's been anything I've really given up on
completely
in a while. Yeah. I'm kind of more in this season of my life where I had been in a place for years where I gave up on things. And I'm in that season where I'm getting back to all those things that I gave up. So that's a short answer from me. Now I will say I recently gave up sugar, but that's a little different too.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Now one thing I'll add, and maybe you can weigh on this, can be kind of a dual answer. Jen and I have started a new healthy lifestyle program. And it's really going real well so far. And for me, fortunately, I weighed myself for the first time last Tuesday, and I realized that over the past 4 or 5 years, I've only gone up 15 pounds. Now, for me, that is a means of celebration because I've struggled on and off with weight my whole life. I've gotten really heavy, and I'm not close to that weight now, but the heaviest I ever was I was like a pound under 400 pounds. And that's way too big. And I haven't been close to that, thank God, for quite some time. But I haven't weighed myself over the 4-year period since taking care of Grandma. I think was the last time when I was taking care of her. I went over to Shannon's, and she had our family scales over there, and I just wanted to see where I was because I'd dropped a considerable amount of weight before that in the wake of my divorce, my first divorce back in 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. I'd put on a lot of weight. I don't know exactly how much, because as I said, I didn't weigh myself, but I'm looking at pictures of myself and just didn't, I was just looked miserable. I really, to myself, I just looked miserable and uncomfortable in my own skin and things like that. So this is the reason why all this change, all the good things that have happened, and meeting Jen and has all been very good. And it could have been, sometimes people meet someone new and they kind of let go on their appearance and eating, not because they're depressed, but because they're just like, oh, well, I can relax now a little bit. And that's not what happened. But anyway, what I've given up on in the past is, it's been a goal of mine for a long time to drop the weight and not have it be a chain around my neck, because it has felt like that to me. And I've done all kinds of different diets, and I in the past, I've been someone that can follow it for several months and I can be successful or partially successful. But there's a point I've always gotten to where you call it, being more comfortable and kind of just, easing off a little bit. But the truth is, for a long time, I felt like I didn't deserve it. And as ridiculous as that might seem to people, I know others do struggle with the same thing. They feel like there's a brokenness inside them. There's something in them that doesn't feel like they deserve to be happy. And, through counseling and reading books and things like that, I discovered that I had that. I didn't deserve it. And I think that's the reason why I gave up. But I've given up on doing what I'm doing right now many, many times, and have prevented myself from success. And this time just feels very different to me. I'm a different person. I've grown and matured, and the choices of doing this are multifold. I have a lot of reasons to be successful in this. I'm getting older. It gets harder to lose weight as you get older, from what they say. But I want to live as long as I can, barring getting hit by a bus or some catastrophe happening. The men on both sides of my family, I think the youngest person that I'm aware of on my mom's side, my grandpa was 78 when he died, and it was an aneurysm. So, but my grandfather lived to be 94, and I've had other members of my family that my dad's 76, and he still seems to be doing real well, even with having diabetes and stuff. So, in the place of feeling like giving up, it has been for me in this area more than a feeling. It's something I have given up on many times. And as I mentioned, I believe the reason in the past was that I felt like I didn't deserve it. I was also kind of scared of success, of dropping the weight and feeling comfortable in my own skin. And then what if it wasn't what I thought it was going to be? What if it wasn't what I imagined? I don't have any of that anymore. In the past, I dealt with it by just quitting, and then I'd feel guilty about having quit. And I've carried that around with me for a long time. And I'm in a place now where I don't need it anymore, and I don't want it anymore. So it's something I'm endeavoring to change. That's a long-winded answer again. Nez, are you back?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. What brings you to a place of feeling like giving up, and how do you deal with it? I think Nez might.
Oh, I think she's muted.
Oh, she is.
Oh, there she is. There she is.
Okay, sorry. I also struggle with the weight issue. I come from people who have a lot of meat on their bones. Grew up with a lot of home cooking, Depression era food, lots of carbs, lots of starches.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. And then later in my life, I was tested and diagnosed found to have hypothyroidism, where my metabolism is slow, sluggish, and that's not good. And that even got to the point, because at that time I wasn't on any medication. The thyroid affects many parts of your body, including your heart. and I had incurred some heart damage because of
goodness.
not being on top of that particular health concern. I was in the cardiac ICU for 3 days,
Oh my
and
gosh.
and I went live doing my art every night from the ICU. So
Wow.
Wow, committed girl.
I kept on doing it anyway. They didn't care. So,
Wow.
but and I understand that there are different diets. Some things work for some people, some things don't. I've been through it enough with diets where I get to the point where I plateau. Like I'll
Yeah.
only lose so much weight, and then I don't know what I'm supposed to do after that.
Yeah.
And it gets real frustrating because even when I lose weight, the pounds go away, but I still feel like I look the same. It's just everything's shrunken and gotten a little bit smaller. I still dislike the same parts of my body that I did when I was, before I went on the diet. So,
Sure.
so even dieting itself doesn't have that much of an incentive for me unless I
Yeah.
happen to have the cash to do liposuction and
Oh, no.
surgery to tuck away the skin that's left over hanging from losing all the fat. And I mean, it just at this point I'm like, I just need to learn to be healthy and to
Right.
take good care of myself. And whoever likes the way I look, good for them. If they don't like it, too bad.
Yeah.
So I mean, but that's been something I've carried with me my whole life. Oh, my weight. Oh, this, oh, that. And then the comments from the toxic people growing up. Oh, you have such a pretty face. If only you'd lose some weight now. I mean,
Wow.
typical narcissist
Yeah.
comments I had thrown at me growing up. I mean, good God.
Yeah. I can relate.
I felt like giving up at times when I went through the trouble to diet and exercise and do supposedly air quotes that you can't see everything right and only get so far and still not be satisfied with the changes in myself.
Right.
So that was really rough.
Yeah.
Now, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not a big fan of looking at myself in the mirror. I don't even like to, I was surprised I have 2 kids. I dislike taking off my clothes for pretty much anything unless I'm getting a shower. So,
Yeah.
But it's really been a journey of just accepting myself
Yeah.
and learning to take better care of myself. And it's going to be what it is.
Yeah.
Genetics and just the way I'm built, and there's only so much I can do. And even if I had the money, I couldn't see myself transforming my body with surgeries just to say I like what I see in the mirror. If I don't like what I
Oh,
see
no.
now, I'm never going to like what I see, no matter how much work has been done.
Right.
So I know that I just gave you a long-winded answer there. Sorry
No,
about
that's
that.
okay. No, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And I can relate to a lot of what you said, Naz, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. Some of the feelings that you shared. And yeah, I understand why people would want to give up. It's hard. Dieting is difficult, especially with all the advertisements out there. And in the West, at least, Jen and I were talking about this, and it's just a fact that people eat way too much, and the food that they provide, fast food, is absolutely horrible for you. And it's not just the fast food; it's all the preservatives and things they put in food. It almost encourages weight gain rather than healthy living. I mean, of course, people can make better choices, but it's interesting to me that healthy food in the store, produce and things like that, things that are healthier, cost more than a box of Ho-Hos. It's ridiculous. The food that's full of sugar and horrible for you. It's almost as if someone out there wants the people to be fat and to die early of heart disease. And it's a subject for another time. But thank you for sharing, Naz. Did everyone answer that question? I think we did. I think so. Okay. Next question. Given that there is no such thing as coincidence, what purpose do obstacles and adversity serve, particularly regarding things we wish to accomplish? I'd like to go first on this one. I think it's a great question. First of all, Nez, I agree with you. No such thing as coincidence. I'm sure there are people that don't agree with that, but that's okay. We all have our own opinion. I think a lot of things, most things happen for a reason. Yes, there are accidents, like a car accident or something, that people would argue, well, unless the person intentionally ran into you, it's not a coincidence on their end, but it's coincidence that you're the vehicle that's in their path when they chose to do something like that. But most things, I think, are not coincidence. Things do happen for a reason, whether you believe in God or you believe in universe or you believe in nothing. There's just too many things that don't add up in terms of this things being accidental all the time. So given that there's no such thing as coincidence, what purpose do obstacles and adversity serve? For me, I look at obstacles and adversity, and I've warred against it, and I've moaned and groaned about things that have happened in the past, and I've realized quickly that it doesn't get me anywhere. And one of the verses that Nez shared, it's one of my favorite chapters in Scripture. The whole chapter, Romans 5, and she chose. This is verse 3 and 4. And not only so, but we glory in tribulations also, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, patience experience, and experience hope. I have found this to be true. And I think on one of the recent broadcasts, I was saying, sometimes you struggle so often and so much, and you can see that you're learning from it. You learn something from it. My ongoing question has yet to be answered is, do we learn anything when things are going well? And, it's a kind of a rhetorical question for everyone out there. But for me, it's something that I'm looking at. Can we learn things when everything's going well, or do we only learn from adversity? I don't know. All I know is that I have learned from the obstacles, and I think it's all in the way that you choose to see an obstacle or you see adversity. As we discussed, people struggle with all kinds of things, whether it's financial, whether it's physical. Some things happen to us that have nothing to do with anything that we did to cause it. Sometimes we cause obstacles and adversity for ourselves, and certainly financially, we can make poor decisions. Obviously, if you go out and gamble your paycheck away and you can't pay your bills, you did that to yourself. But what's the reason behind it? Is there something that you need to overcome, and things kind of fall in place for you to deal with that issue? I think that there are reasons why things happen. Depending on how you look at it, and they stand in the way. Nez's question says, particularly regarding things we wish to accomplish. I think the things that stand in the way are things for us to overcome, and there's something that I get from that, from looking at something, an obstacle, seeing it, going through it. That was another one of the quotes that I agree with. The only way is through, not around. And by going through it, you learn from it and you grow as a person. That's my opinion. The purpose of them, I think, is to make us grow. And maybe that's not true about all of them, but I think it's true about a lot of them. And then there are other things in the world, in my opinion, that you can still learn from it, but I'm sure I have wished that it just didn't exist. But I don't have control over it. So the only choice for me is to work through it, and hopefully I can accomplish the things that I want to accomplish, in spite of the obstacles or having gone through them, and certainly adversity. Let's ask Nez next on this one. Given that there's no such thing as coincidence, what purpose do obstacles and adversity serve, particularly regarding things we wish to accomplish. What do you say, Ness?
Well, going back to our little common used phrase, classroom earth, these obstacles and adversity, things that get in our way, things that try to stop us or delay us. Sure, they can be a bummer. They can make us mad, and we can pout and shout and
Yeah.
stomp about. And when we're done doing that, God knows. I believe God knows everything we go through. Nothing surprises him. We don't have to tug on his robe and go, hey, Lord, did you know I was going through this? What are we going to do about that? He already knows. He already knows. But
Yep.
I also believe that he knows what you need to do to help get through whatever it is you're going through. And coming from a Christian point of view, God wants to be the one to help you go through whatever it is you're going through. And for those who aren't believers, you can still go through it. You can still face what lies before you. You can be honest about what your abilities, your gifts, your limitations, your fears, whatever those things are, and you can still press forward. You're not going to make progress by stomping around and hollering and complaining. You might blow off some steam, and that's good. But like I said, once you're done doing all that and having your fit, where are you at? What then?
Right.
Yeah. That's a good point.
What's next? And you've got to realize that this is a place for us to learn and grow, and all these things that are difficulties, trials, temptations, struggles, obstacles, they are all opportunities to learn, all opportunities to grow, and not just to grow yourself, but to contribute to the world around you, to be an example of someone who's not going to give up. And maybe by your example, someone else can be inspired to keep on going.
Yeah. Thank you, Ness. I think that's one of the biggest points as to what I was saying earlier when we go through things, being able to help people going through the same thing. I think that's another purpose for adversity, for obstacles.
Exactly. I agree with that. Yes.
Thank you, Ness. Appreciate that. You're up next, Jen. Given that there's no such thing as coincidence, what purpose do obstacles and adversity serve, particularly regarding things we wish to accomplish? What do you say?
I think it makes us stronger. And it makes us better. We've had many conversations about how mistakes or failure, I hate both of those words, but they're stepping stones, to more accomplishments. If you were an artist, it's a stepping stone to getting better at your craft, at what you do. It's kind of like practice in a way. What was the last part of the question?
Particularly regarding things we wish to accomplish. What's the purpose of adversity and obstacles, particularly regarding things we wish to accomplish? So obstacles that keep us from accomplishing some of the things we mentioned.
Want to do. Yeah. Okay. Tenacity. I guess that's kind of the same as it makes us stronger. I
guess you're saying it gives you tenacity when you choose
to work through the obstacles and stuff.
Sure.
Whether it's like things getting in the way from doing the things that you want to do, or hitting bumps along the road of doing what you want to do. I think both of those, they make you stronger. It helps you persevere, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I've had times where I've hit obstacles and I'm like, oh, it's just not in the cards. Like, throw in the towel and like, screw this. But I don't want to be that type of person where I throw in the towel when stuff gets hard. I truly do want to be a person that pushes through. I do think it makes us stronger, sometimes physically, sometimes spiritually, sometimes emotionally, sometimes all three. And I think it makes us a more well-rounded person, on top of when we go through things like that, and it could cover so many different things. I think we're able to empathize with people more. I've met so many people, like all three of you on the panel, that have been through things that I have had been currently going through. And so when people have gone through things and they've gotten to the other side, they've pressed through the adversities, the bumps or interruptions or whatever, and they've succeeded,
Yeah,
I think that can be such a light, like a lighthouse to people that are in the mix of going through it.
sure.
So that's like bonus. Not just, you getting stronger within yourself by working through those things, but having people around you that have been through similar things or maybe even different things, but the very fact that they've gotten through it,
Yeah,
it just gives you hope. It gives you a little bit of gas in your tank,
I agree.
sometimes a lot of gas in the tank.
Yeah, I think we can really help people. It doesn't always have to be just about us when we go through hard times. We can
Yeah.
choose to allow other people to benefit from the things we've gone through. And fortunately, I've met a lot of people that are willing to do that. When I've gone through something and you talk to someone, an older person maybe, and a lot of them are willing to share their own story and share how they dealt with that same thing. That's kind of what we're talking about. So I feel like that's another purpose, for someone to go through these obstacles, as you were saying, Jen, and be willing to allow someone struggling with it to go through it, to get around the obstacle or go through the obstacle themselves and have that. What word did you use for it? Not
Tenacity?
yeah, well, tenacity, but the feeling that they have. I keep wanting to
Oh,
think
darn it. I think I forgot it.
steam or something like that.
Oh,
It's
gas in the tank?
gas in the tank. Yep, there you go. Thank you. Gas in the tank. Yeah, I think that's good. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah. I mean, like I was going to say, sometimes you'll see people that have had success. And I think sometimes some of us, me, you think, oh, wow, they must have had it easy and they just started to do it. And I mean, you've heard of stories like this where somebody, they get a camera in their hands, they've never taken a shot before, and they're like a fantastic photographer.
Right.
But I think I've been very moved by stories like I think we've talked about this in the show before, where there are people like in their 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s who became fashion designers or the KFC guy or,
Right.
People that had pushed through and they talk about the failures that they had along the way and they kept at it. And that's
Yeah.
so inspiring. I mean, it's inspiring too when you hear these stories of people hopping on a piano and for some reason they've got like this amazing gift. But to hear the stories of people muscling through the hardships or the failures or the mistakes or it not being quite what they wanted, the goal they wanted to get to.
Right.
But they finally did get there. And that's just, for me, it just makes such a more inspiring story
Yeah.
when you hear from other people that have just muscled through it.
Yeah. Good point, Jen. I'll just add to that. You mentioned the chicken guy or Colonel Sanders, Abraham Lincoln. I think we did a broadcast where I mentioned some of these people. I remember, I can see it in my head, it wasn't about overcoming adversity. It's like being older and still going after your dreams. Some of these people, they failed, or for lack of a better term, they didn't succeed many, many times before they finally did. I mean, Thomas Edison, I mean, there's arguments about whether he stole that idea from someone else, but the story is that when he finally did it, they said, well, how do you look at your failure? He says, don't look at his failure. I found 1,999 ways that didn't work.
Yeah.
I probably have the number wrong, but that's a apt description of tenacity and perseverance.
Absolutely.
And choosing to look at it a different way. I've mentioned many times what I learned from Glenn about not looking at it as something as a failure, but it's part of the process. I mean, I think we just talked about that last week. He was saying that, and I thought that was very profound, and I have experienced it, but I didn't put it in those words. It's a good way to look at things. I think it can help anyone get through it.
Yeah, the WD-40 guy is another one. The 40 in WD-40 was his 40th try. He got it right.
40th try. Wow. Yeah. So stick with it. Whatever you're going through, if it's something you want to accomplish, just know that sometimes it takes several tries to get it right. Learning how to ride a bike. I mean, gosh, I remember learning how to ride a bike, and once you learn how to ride it, you forget about all the times that you failed or fell, busted up your knee or whatever. The joy of learning something that is so freeing, like riding a bike or something else that it took you a while to learn. It's a good thing. Glenn, what do you think? Given that there's no such thing as coincidence, what purpose do obstacles and adversity serve, particularly regarding what we wish to accomplish?
Yeah, I think you guys covered it pretty well. I always think of it like you got two choices: give up or get on with it.
Right.
Make a choice.
Right. Like the line from a movie, which I can't remember which one it is, but it's always stuck with me: get busy living or get busy dying. I'll look it up.
Essentially, that's it.
That's what it is. All right, we'll move forward. I want to say hello to Little Mystery. I'm sorry it took me so long to say something, but Little Mystery and Bingus came in the chat while we were going on and on. Welcome, you guys. Appreciate you being here. I think we have a small attendance due to the Easter holiday. I certainly understand that, as I said at the beginning, but appreciate everyone that's taken the time to pop in and be part of the conversation. So thank you. All right. Is it a waste of time, or is a waste of time something that distracts us or something we have yet to learn from? Can we learn from things that appear to waste our time? Let's go with Nez first. If you're available, Nez, is a waste of time something that distracts us or something we have yet to learn from? And can we learn from things that appear to be a waste of time? What do you say?
I think it can be both, depending on what we're talking about. There's some things that are obviously just a stupid waste of time, like thinking you're going to win millions off of the scratch-off lottery tickets.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Or expecting a narcissist to not be a narcissist. That's kind of a great big waste of time right there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've wasted plenty of times in that particular circumstance right there. Oh boy. Wow, that's a whole nother series of shows right there. What was the last part of that question? Even though I wrote it, I can't quite remember.
Yeah, can we learn from things that appear to be a waste of time?
We most certainly can. And you guys just brought up the WD-40 thing. Yeah, what about the WD-1 through 39? I'm sure that guy would have something to say about things appearing to be a waste of time.
Right.
And I think we need to assess what exactly is considered a waste of our time. Is it just when we don't get what we want?
Right.
Or is it when we try to do something on our own without any instruction or guidance?
Right.
Or is it arbitrary attacks from the evil out there that just comes and messes things up for us, which can happen. I believe that certainly, but which is it? And I think you can learn from anything,
sure,
including things that appear to be a waste of time. Even going back to the narcissist, I've berated myself many times for being stupid enough to fall for it over and over again, and the time I've wasted on certain people when in fact they were never invested the way I was, and the love on their part was never there. It was for me, but not for them.
Right.
But after I got done, I had to stomp around and yell and talk to God about it and complain and all of that. But after I got done having my fit, I realized that I learned how to better recognize red flags in toxic people. I learned how to keep a better grip on my emotions, what I allow and who I allow into my heart and into my world. Just taught me to be a little more vigilant, a little more careful, have a bit more sense about myself when it comes to things like that. And Scripture even tells us to guard our heart. Well, there's one reason right there, because there's a bunch of narcissists running around. You got to guard yourself from those people who want to prey on other people and take advantage of them and pretend to be something they're not. So we can learn something every day, even our obstacles and things that challenge us. Certainly.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
While you were talking, as I was thinking, who's it a waste of time to? That's another question. I mean, someone else can see us doing something that to them is a waste of time, but for us, it's something we enjoy. So I don't think that anything is a waste of time. If it's something you enjoy, you're choosing to put your time into something. It may seem like that to someone else, but to you, it's not. And I think that's all that matters. If it's something you want to do, then do it. I mean, it's your choice how you spend your time. I mean, that makes sense to me. So the question is a waste of time something that distracts us or something we have yet to learn from? I think everything we do we can learn from if we have the right mindset. If we're introspective and we see, as Nez mentioned, the world as being a school and there's something to learn. If you're aware of that, if you look at it like that, then even when something seems like a waste of time, you can learn from it. So I can't think of a lot of things to me that seem like a waste of time if it's purposeful. I mean, even if you're just sitting around playing video games, I know that people that are addicted to video games, they say, well, it's for eye-hand coordination. Well, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be living a life in some way, or it's not an excuse not to work or not to take showers or whatever. But they're right. It is eye-hand. It's not that there's no value in it whatsoever. There's some value in it. Otherwise, people wouldn't do it. So I think it's arbitrary. Each person has to decide for themselves what's a waste of time or what isn't. One thing I will say is that I'm tired, have been tired for a long time of people observing me and saying, oh, that's just a waste of time. I mean, I remember, wanting to be an actor, and early on, 16, 17, people telling me that, oh, you're never going to make it. And I never did make it. And I think part of that is because I listened to people around me. Maybe, a lot of people go to Hollywood and they try to make it as an actor. There's plenty of people that have broken dreams of being an actor in Hollywood or any number of things, being a musician, being in a rock band. Some people make it, some people don't. And how do we know what is the element? There are plenty of great bands. I've heard music by unpublished artists, indie music, that's better than some of the crap that is termed popular music out there that don't have a record label. They're not on a record label. So, and there's actors out there that I've worked with in theater that I think to myself, they should be in movies or they should be on Broadway. They're so good. And they never do it. So someone else looking at you and saying what you're doing is a waste of time, I just don't think that's right. And we shouldn't listen to people, especially if it's something we enjoy doing. If you enjoy doing it, my opinion is to do it. So if it appears a waste of time, who does it appear to be a waste of time to? You need to be the judge. If you're doing something and you say to yourself, oh, this is just a waste of time, that's the appropriate decision for you to make, not for anybody else. I think that's important. Glenn, what do you say? Is a waste of time something that distracts us or something we have yet to learn from? And then second part, can we learn from things that appear to waste our time?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I agree with you 100% that a waste of time, in inverted commas, is such an individual thing.
Right.
So, and I think there's an inherent part of respect that needs to be put into this. I'll outline something in a sec, but what else was I going to say? I was going to say that really, to my mind, nothing's a waste of time.
Right.
Hey, because how do you know?
Right.
What's today's so-called waste of time might be tomorrow's epiphany.
Right.
How do we
Yes.
know? We don't have this information. And
No.
so, okay. Now, I have, and you know who this person is. I have a good friend that I speak to outside of the show, and she has a processing style that is totally different from mine. Like, if I get something put in front of me, I process it really fast.
Yeah.
She's a person that needs to do it, not like I used to ask you questions 10 times. Well, she needs to do it 10 or 20 times because that, and I'm guilty of this. I'm thinking to myself, oh, for goodness sake, this is exasperating. It's driving me nuts. Why do we have to keep going over this stuff?
Yeah.
Because it's like, the repetition, etc., etc. But then I did think to myself, I need to pull my head in because, just because I'm frustrated, that really doesn't matter. The fact is, if this person is important to you, it's also important to not indulge, but respect that this is how they do things.
Sure.
And run with it. Be prepared to put the time in, and if that's how they do it, and that's how they gain information, put the effort in. It's like it's to so really it's what am I trying to say here? Even though it might appear a waste of time to me, it shouldn't preclude me from putting in the effort because someone else does something differently.
Right.
That's really what I'm saying.
Great point.
I think that's a good point. I would agree with you on that. And as a side note, we all process in different ways, and what to you might be something that you come up with an answer quickly, someone else might take longer. And part of coming to the answer is the process. Person might even answer one way, and then they think about it more, and they say, no, I need to change that. I've thought more about it, and this is what I think. I mean, but as far as what is a waste of time and what isn't, I think we agree that if to you it's not a waste of time, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks because they don't know, and we don't know what's a waste of time for us because, as you said, Glenn, I agree. We can't see the future. We don't know whether something is a waste of time, and ultimately, for me, if it's something you enjoy, it is never a waste of time. You're getting some enjoyment out of it. That is not a poor use of time, in my opinion. Jen, what do you say? Is a waste of time something that distracts us or something that we have yet to learn from? And can we learn from things that appear to waste our time?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. I think sometimes I have thought about certain things that I do that I'm wasting time. Usually it's like research stuff. Like I could be doing art or something different. But I always glean something from what I'm doing, no matter what it is. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's a waste of time. I know for me, I need to be better about, intentions of how much time I'm putting towards certain things.
Okay.
But no, I don't think any of it is a waste. I think every minute we're alive, every second we're learning. We have the potential, the opportunity to be learning something. And that's kind of the way I come at life now.
Yeah.
And so, no, I don't think it's a waste at all.
Right.
I really don't.
Right.
And I do, I recognize that sometimes some people could look at something I do as a waste. But the cool thing is that I really don't care what people think anymore. So, oh well.
Well, isn't that a beautiful thing when you get to the point where you don't care what other people think?
Yeah.
I mean, except for Brené Brown, she made that point. You sent me that video, Jen.
Yeah, that was good.
And just real quickly, she was making the point that when people say, I don't care what other people think, then she doesn't give that a whole lot of credence. And it's something that it's a person that she doesn't want to work with. She was making the point that other people's opinions do matter, especially if they're trying to be constructive in sharing their opinions with us. But she does get that there are people out there that are just going to be negative and they're not constructive at all. Their opinions don't matter. So it is a little bit more selective whose opinion matters to you. But she did state, and this is where I agree, that in the end, it has to be your opinion that matters. If your opinion of yourself doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter what other people's opinions, even if they're positive, because you don't believe in yourself, and that's not helpful.
Yeah.
I forgot to say hello to Celine too. Celine, sorry about that. I know you've been in the chat for a while. I haven't been paying as much in the chat, partially because I'm so interested in what we're talking about. And I apologize. So Celine, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Hope you had a good Easter. Okay. I forgot whether Nez answered. Nez, did you answer that? I don't think you answered yet. Did you answer?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
yes.
Sorry about that. I don't want to miss anybody. Okay. Next question. What have you put time and energy into and gotten a far different result than you anticipated or imagined? Was it worth it? I have a ready answer for that, but we'll ask Nez first.
Oh, wow. I've got lots of things I can fit in there, but I'm going to throw Billy out there.
Okay.
I met Billy because of having my channel on YouTube and starting to go live and do my artwork. And Billy ended up just being a blessing many times over that I didn't even realize I was going to need. And it just, and because he's such a private person, and he doesn't reach out to a whole lot of people on social media, when he reached out to me in the way that he did, of course I was excited, but I had no idea that it was going to continue and grow. And yeah, we disagree sometimes. Certainly, we have our little go rounds, but I'm just very thankful that the state of my friendship, interpersonal relationship with him, has gotten to where it's gotten, and it's exceeded my expectations. It's did not go at all the way I thought it was going to go, and thank God for that. So sometimes I wondered, but every time I think something, I just need to stop and just step back and let things happen. Let God take control. Let life happen.
Yeah.
And Glenn's kind of helped me learn that too. You just gotta live it each day, and it is what it is, and you take it on every single day. So yeah, so in a positive way, even despite the bumps, because nobody's perfect and everybody disagrees on certain things here and there.
Right.
Billy's no exception, but God bless Billy. I love you, Billy, if you're lurking or listening to the replay. And it just, that whole relationship, friendship with him has just turned out so much better than way different than I thought it would go. So.
Okay. Thank you.
And was it worth it? Absolutely. Every bit of pain, every bit of problems, trouble I went through in my life along the way while I've known him. I'm not saying he was the cause of all of it. I'm just saying that he knew me when I went through so many horrible things. Absolutely, it was worth it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to have people that are there with you during hard times, and doesn't make them perfect people, just makes them someone who was there for you when things weren't going well. And you can definitely bond with people like that, and it's important, I think.
He certainly made me believe even more that God gives you what you need when you need it. Many times over, God used Billy to give me some kind of support or some kind of blessing or something positive that I needed.
Okay.
And
sure.
So yeah.
That's
All
cool.
right, I'll be quiet now.
No, you're fine.
No.
You're fine. Jen, what have you put the time and energy into and gotten a far different result than you anticipated or imagined, and was it worth it?
I should have thought about this one beforehand.
I mean, it's a big question. It makes you think. For sure.
And it could apply to a lot of things.
Sure.
I'm just thinking of which one to choose.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with self-care.
Okay. Wow.
Self-care and learning how to love myself, like who I am, who God's created me to be, has been a lot of work.
Yeah.
But it's been definitely worth it, and it kind of connects with that subject that we've hit on quite a few times about the scripture, love your neighbor as yourself, and
Sure.
how some of us have fallen into the trap of getting confused, of thinking that any attention that we pay ourselves within the Christian church, it's prideful, it's icky, it's not good. But we've talked about how can we love others in a full way when we don't love ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, having to flip that coin, I've been able to see how much richer I am able to empathize with others, be there for them, truly love them when I have learned how to love myself. It's been such a worthwhile journey. So that's my answer.
Wow, great point. I agree with that completely. Thank you for that. Glenn, what have you put time and energy into and gotten a far different result than you anticipated or imagined? Was it worth it?
Writing TSL. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's what I thought.
Because when I started out, now this is, I don't know, how long ago was that on the blog when I said to you, you used to have write-ups, and you said something like, well, do you want to do it? Can you do better? I said, okay. But I remember I used to start out with a topic, and then I'd say, okay, this here's the topic. This is where I want to get to. And then I'd try to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time and energy went into that. And you know where it got me? Precisely nowhere. It would be garbage. So I realized that give up the anticipation and imagination and trying to see a result, and start with a blank page and just let it come to you.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
So the time and energy is actually spent more in meditation than it is in writing the shows.
Right.
Oh wow.
So is it worth it? Oh yeah, because it's taught me I think that is a life lesson big time for me.
Wow.
Don't try to control the narrative.
Right.
So put your time and energy into something that you really don't know what's going to happen is so valuable and important. You don't, like, I know this is a very goal-oriented society, but sometimes just not having any goals is what gets you the farthest.
Wow. Someone needs to write that down.
I'm on it.
I think that's more profound than it might appear on the surface.
What was it again? Dang it. Sometimes not having
any goals gets you further or farther than you might think.
Yeah. Wow.
Because it leaves you open. See, once you have goals, you're closeted into the goal.
Wow. You might even miss things that you could learn on the way because you're too focused on whatever the goal might be.
Exactly, and that's what happened. So many times I think I've said to you at times, look, I've spent time and I've got 80% done on this write-up, and it doesn't feel right. I've said to you so many times, I just threw it away because I start again.
Yeah.
So I think people, if they trust that inner part of themselves as well, that is a big part of this.
Yeah. Wow.
Take the pressure off that you have to achieve some kind of result.
Right.
I mean, I know results are important at times. You're studying for exams and all this kind of stuff. Well, that's what. But I'm just talking in general terms.
Yeah.
Every time, the level of pressure you put on yourself really dictates how far you can go.
Wow. Beautiful. I love it.
My goodness.
Well,
Thanks.
I certainly am glad that you didn't just give up, because when you really got going and whatever your process has been, The write-ups lead to a lot of, I think, a lot of healing and a lot of introspection, and certainly a lot of answering of questions for a lot of people. At least it has been for me. And all the write-ups in some way serve that purpose, even if the process is a little bit different. I've never thought of the write-ups having a certain goal. I mean, maybe over time, maybe I've done a write-up where I thought, okay, here's what I want people to know. But it was never a decision on my part to quit doing that. But it seems like rather than me having some kind of purpose that I want for other people, it's just asking questions. It's just presenting questions so that people would think about it, and I'm thinking about it too. And I think that's why we keep doing this. I don't know. I mean, I've thought many times, why is Glenn sticking with this for so long? I mean, I know that in the beginning, after we'd done it for a while, I know you got burned out, and we took a year off, and I think that was beneficial for all of us. When we came back, it just seemed like a better show, better situation, better environment. Everything was better. Maybe we needed that time to come back with a fresh look. But either way, very grateful for the time you've put into it, Glenn, and continue to put into it, and the time that all of us have put into it, each of us from our own perspective. I can go back and listen to any one of the shows, and I know that I'll get something out of it, and got something out of it when we were doing it. So that's thank you for your answer. I appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah. Look, there is obviously a focus on trying not to be too repetitive, because it's easy to just, reinvent the wheel every week. And but I think what happens is, okay, I'll just speak for me. With my process, I'm emotionally connected to what comes out.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a difference. I'm not saying it's not necessary. Doesn't have to be brilliant writing or some piece of, something that's going to win 10 awards. It just comes more from inside than it does from just sitting down and, okay, I've got to do a write up now. What am I going to do? Yada, yada, yada. And you can sort of just say, okay, well, that's done. That's another one finished. But I think whether it takes 30 minutes or 6 hours, you really can't know. It is what it takes, what it takes.
Right. Exactly. This is the last thing I'll say on this, but I think my mother is delighted that you have been writing so much and that you're a part of the broadcast. I think she's up there or out there somewhere or whatever, just smiling, seeing the result of all of this, and that we're still doing it.
I think so. You have the email, one of her emails, where she said, "Oh, Glenn, you should be a writer."
I know. That's kind of what I'm referring to. I think that she would just be delighted to see that you are doing this, whether you had any training or not or whatever.
No, I think the important thing is you try. Look, I've been very privileged, and that's why I do those shows on privilege. With what it's in some small way, if there can be that something can be contributed back, it is worthwhile.
Yeah.
It's not always about taking stuff. It's
right.
The reciprocation that's important.
Exactly. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
I've got a couple different things. So I'll just say that in answer to Nez's question, what have you put time and energy into and gotten a far different result than you anticipated or imagined? Was it worth it? The first thing when I read the question initially that popped into my head was the 3D drafting that I do. I mean, it's a job, but when I started it, I never saw myself doing any. I'm not a mathematical person, and there's not much math in it, but I just mean I'm not a programmer. I use a computer quite often, but not in this way. And it was a lot of learning. It seemed like this huge Everest that was standing in front of me, and I had no idea how I was going to traverse the cliffs and the rock edges and the bitter cold and the possible death, metaphorically, that could occur. And I really doubted myself, honestly, at the beginning. It just seemed insurmountable. And I even had looked at it a year before and said to myself, I no, I can't do this. It's and it's unfortunate because it pays really well, and it would be something that would be helpful for Jen and myself, and it would be something that would pay dividends over the years and things like that. And plus, I might learn a new trade. It literally is something that, other than having been in construction and having some knowledge of certain things, some of the terms used and things like that. I mean, it wasn't that I had no knowledge, but the program itself literally started from square one. And it took a long time for me to get it. And the program itself is so detailed. I think a person could work in it for 30 years and still not know everything that the program does. It's that complicated. It's that deep in the programming. But I got through the initial I can't do it mentality, and I worked really hard to learn it. And I at first I didn't look forward to it. When I would get a project, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And it took hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to do something now that takes a course. Well, okay, so a project used to take me 3 days. Now I slapped an 8 and did other things, but pretty much 3 days from the time I got the project to it being finished at the beginning. And now I get a project. It takes about 5 or 6 hours, sometimes more, depending on how big the house is. But I actually love it. I really, honestly love it. I love doing it. It's not a waste of time. I'm certainly getting paid for it, but I'm not thinking of it in that frame of mind. I can sit there and work on it for a few hours and not even realize how much time has gone by. That is not the thing that I anticipated. I looked at it as a job that I really couldn't do. I was not prepared. Didn't have training and schooling and all of that. No one sat next to me and showed me how to use the program. There were videos that showed what I needed to do with the software.
Yeah.
So there was some training in that way, but I learned something from it about myself that I don't know how else I could have been taught this. One of the biggest things is to not say I can't do something and to not second guess myself. I believe there are things out there that aren't for me, but to say that I can't do something and not even try it, that's the sin, in my opinion. And this is one time that I didn't do it. I'm glad I stuck with it. I'm glad I persevered, because it ended up being something I put a lot of time and energy into. I never imagined I would love it. Never imagined. And this is not as good as some of the other answers. We're talking about a software program, but for me, it is helping people live their dream of having a new home. And I play a part in that. So there are aspects of this that I am contributing something to the world, and it may not be in the way that I contribute in other areas, but it is worth my time and energy because I am helping. I do get enjoyment out of it, and as just the cherry on the top is that I get paid for it. I think when someone loves a job that they do, so you're making a living doing something that you enjoy, I think it's the best possible scenario. So
Yeah.
that's my answer.
And I was going to add to that, Jay, because we've talked about this a couple times. The very fact that it looked like an Everest to you, and you jumped in and you learned, and you have that on your tool belt. It's something that you conquered. There's been many things that you were a little nervous about, but because you conquered that big Everest that was in your mind regarding soft plan, it's kind of in your arsenal where you're like, I really didn't think I was going to be able to do this, and I did it. And so it gives you that gas in your tank to tackle other things that you might have a little anxiety about.
Well, that is true. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jen. That is very true. Like the job I have now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a better can-do attitude now than I did before I took that on. You're absolutely right.
Exactly.
Thank you, Jen.
It's been beneficial.
Yep, absolutely. Ness, what have you put time and energy into and gotten a far different result than you anticipated or imagined, and was it worth it?
I already answered. I said
Oh,
Billy.
sorry.
Oh,
Billy.
yeah.
It's okay. He's still worth it.
So
Say it a second time.
everybody answered. Jen, did you answer? You did, didn't you? No. You're up next.
Maybe I didn't. Oh, okay. Oh gosh. Wait, read the question one more time.
Sure. What have you put time and energy into and gotten a far different result than you anticipated or imagined, and was it worth it?
I've got a little bit of a different answer. Moving here to South Carolina was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I don't know about you guys or people in the chat, but I had been living with my parents other than my last marriage my entire life. Like I was one of those that didn't go off to college. I went to community college. I lived with my parents until I got married the first time. And then after that went to kaputs. I moved back in with them. And I've always lived like with my parents, like in the town where my family was, that kind of thing. So getting up the courage to move was really, really difficult and very scary. And I think I did not realize how many pluses, like how many wonderful things were going to come about in regard to moving away.
Right.
There was a lot more healing that came about with getting that space from my family. And I'll just mention one, which is a big one. I had for my whole life been finding my identity through other people, especially my family. Some of it was like my hometown of Williamsburg, where I was from. So getting away from that, almost like it was a crutch, sort of, it was very scary because I felt like I was just out in the middle of this vast ocean with no dock to latch to, no anchor, no paddles, like no boat. It was really, really scary, but it was like the first time that I've ever had the opportunity to truly find out who I am and what I'm capable of. And going through, and that has a lot of detailed stories, mixed in there, but to make it short and sweet. It was the best thing I could have ever decided to do for myself. And I do miss my family. I miss my hometown, but it has been so healing. It has put me in a position to where I have been able to, in a sense, figure out and find out who I am and who I want to be without it being hinged on anyone else. And Jason's been great because he's never been in my face, like trying to help me figure it. Not when he's helped me figure it out, but I my whole life, I've had people in my life who really stepped up to the plate in a bad way. Because I was floundering and I was waiting for someone to tell me, who am I? What should I do? Where should I, whatever. And so I had all these people that were more than willing to step in and be like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. So then I was just leaning on other people. So just being cut, having those apron strings cut, if you will, it has been more beneficial than anything I've ever done. It's just been life-changing. So good stuff.
Wonderful answer. These answers are all so good. Thank you, guys. Okay, just a couple more questions and we'll call it a night. Next one is, what advice do you have for others not to give up? I'll ask Glenn first on this one. Glenn, someone's struggling and they're thinking about giving up. What advice do you have for others not to give up? What do you say?
I don't give people advice. I say if they ask for my opinion, I'll happily give it. So,
okay, let's say someone asks you.
Okay, well, that's a very general question. If you want to contextualize it, I'd be happy to respond.
All right, Nez, you're the one that wrote the question, so how do you explain it to Glenn so he can answer the question?
Certainly. Glenn, say that I'm just hitting a big pile of depression. And I don't feel like doing anything that I used to love doing. I don't feel like talking to people. I don't feel like taking care of myself. And I'm just at a very low point and feeling like just giving up and living under a rock for the rest of my life. What might you say to me in that situation?
I'd say if there's anything that you would like to me to assist you with, please ask, because I don't know your situation like in depth. Basically, I'm saying to you, I'm available if you would like to avail of anything from me that I can offer.
That's wonderful. What a beautiful answer.
Okay. What about you, Nez? What advice do you have for others not to give up?
First of all, coming from a Christian perspective, God knows who you are, God knows your situation, what you're going through, and I totally believe God had a purpose for you specifically in mind when you were created. That doesn't go away just because you run into problems, difficulties, obstacles. I
Right.
would suggest, first and foremost, uh, seeking God's help, seeking spiritual help above all else. Secondly, I would say that um, I I may not know other people's specifics and details and situations, but I know what I've survived. I know what I've gotten through. I know what
Yeah.
God's brought me through. And like Glenn, if there's anything I can do to help, and sometimes just a listening ear and a kind word
Yeah.
can go a long way to keep somebody from doing something hurtful to themselves or other people. Um,
Yeah.
so, beautiful answer again, Glenn. Thank you. I would agree with that as well.
Okay. Jen, what do you say? Someone is thinking about giving up. How do you help them?
I would tell them that they're way more capable than they're giving themselves credit for,
Yeah.
and that I hope they would learn that they are worthy to find that out, to find out how capable they are.
Yeah.
But that I understand what they're going through, that I've been there before, and that I'm always here to listen.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Jen. To me, it's really just making sure that they know that they're not alone. Because obviously,
Yeah.
if they're coming to you and they're saying, "Hey, I feel like giving up," and yes, it matters what their story is. It matters what the situation is. Maybe they're going through something that you've never experienced and you have no idea how to answer their particular situation. But all of us have been through something, and uh, many of us have felt like giving up. So I would share that with them. I would think of a situation, even if I couldn't understand possibly what they're going through. And think of a time that I felt like giving up and what I did to get through it. And part of it is helping them find that they have value. And it's difficult to see that. And when you're in the middle of a situation, sometimes it's difficult to see it. But I would help them look at the situation, look at who they are, and just be there for them. And sometimes people need their hand held. I'm willing to hold their hand. Sometimes people just need a listening ear. That was said, and I agree with that. And I'm a good listener. Sometimes you don't need to come up with advice or suggestions. You just need to be there for them. And that's what I would try to provide if I could. Thank you. Good question.
Yeah, great question.
Want to say hello to my friend John Dons, who popped in the chat also. Hey, John,
Hey, John.
everybody coming at the last minute. It's okay that
Hey,
we're
John. No guilt and shame.
no guilt and shame. No. Bobby Meyer is in the chat too. Welcome. And Shadow Self came in earlier, and I didn't get a chance to say hello to you folks. So thank you for coming in. Better late than never. Thank you so much. As we always say, come in when you want, leave when you want. We're just glad you're here. Glad you took the time to come by. And for those listening to playback, we appreciate you taking the time to do that as well. All right, last question, guys. What is the best? Wait, did everyone answer that one? I think they did. Yeah. What is the best advice someone gave you when you wanted to give up? What is the best advice someone gave you when you wanted to give up? Jen.
Oh man. Just was thinking about, I'm like trying to think of the times I wanted to give up, which hasn't been many actually. Like give up just seems so final. But when I think about leaving my first marriage, um, I think some advice was do it. But that's
Just do
more
it.
like just do it. Um, that was giving up something that I needed to for my own health, and safety. But in the sense of something that I wanted to keep or wanted to do, um, yeah, what you said, and the answer, what you said fits there too. Just do it. It makes me
Just
think of
do it.
Nez. She's like, just do it. Just
Just
get
do
in
it.
there, do the art. Like because there was a time that I just was so sick and tired of staring at my drafting table with all my art stuff day in, day out, never walking over there, never sitting down, never doing it. I had one day where I was so pissed off at myself. I wanted to just set fire to all of it. Because it was like, it got to the point where I felt like it was mocking me. Like, hey, you're sitting over there on the couch looking at us again. Why don't you? It's just like, F you. Stupid drafting table and art supplies just mocking me every day because I'm not doing anything with it. So yeah, Nez encouraging me to just do it. And I think it might have been you and Glenn both had said something, and I'm not going to get the exact words right, but
Oh,
it had to do with putting pressure on myself. I kept wanting to it was all about producing, like produce something,
yeah.
and which totally rips out the heart of it.
Yeah.
When you sit down and you do something that you're passionate about, like Glenn was talking with the write-ups, let it come to you. Don't force it. Don't try to make it, I don't know, just have it in this kind of box. And so the times that I've sat down and done art and just sort of took all these limitations off myself and preconceived notions and expectations, and it flows, and it's so much better. It's so much better that way. So I'd say those are my good advices.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't stop praying. My grandfather told me that a long time ago,
Oh, love
and
that.
and I'm still praying. And it wasn't necessarily at a point in my life where I was feeling down and without hope, but I far and away hold that as one of the best pieces of advice anyone's ever given me, and certainly um, I think of him every day,
Oh,
and I'm glad I've stuck with it, and it's helped me get. I'm still here. I didn't
Yeah.
give up and do away with myself or give up on any of my particular goals that I would like to achieve and accomplish, the reasonable, feasible ones. You know what I
Right.
mean? I
Right.
still am on track, and uh, at least, and thanks to Glenn, my sign is open. So I'm a lot more open to possibilities and other things I might not have expected or anticipated.
Yeah.
So my best piece of advice, my grandpa, keep on praying.
Yeah.
keep on praying.
Good stuff. What is the best advice someone gave you when you wanted to give up? I really have been trying to scour my memory warehouse to find the best piece of advice when I wanted to give up, and I just can't find anything. But the best advice someone gave me when I had already given up was Glenn, when he was working with me, and this idea of being available to love again. So it's a little different in that I had already given up. I was not thinking that I would ever find love again. And I had already met Jen, and she was not available. And he had already been, from time to time, Glenn would just ask me, when do you think you're going to open yourself up to relationships. And I, first time he asked me that, I was like, I'm not ever going to do it. And I understand, thinking about my past self, I know where I was at the time, and I understand why I answered that way. But I'd already given up, and his advice to put myself out there to see what's out there. And certainly the thing that spurred me on is I felt, and I've talked about this before, but I felt like if I met Jen, a person like Jen, and she had a lot of the qualities and personality traits and things like that I really, really wanted in a spouse. If there's one, there's got to be another. Now, I was way wrong about that, about there being another one like her. She is a unique person. There isn't anyone like her. But what I was right about, that I had to open myself. I had to be open to it. And Glenn definitely helped with that. In general, the best advice I have had from anyone when feeling like giving up is not the guilt and shame comments that people make. Oh, don't be a baby, or just, get back up on the horse and all of that. The best general advice, just, in my mind that I have ever heard, is don't stop believing. Hang on to that feeling. So, Journey. No, but thank you, Jen. It was a little late there on the laugh, but that's okay. Yeah, there's a song "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. So I was trying to make a little joke, and it fell a little flat. But my wife had my back on it, so thank you, Jen. That's it. That's it. That's all we got for you. Shadow Self. Huh? Sorry, I thought you answered. My apologies. What's the best advice? Oh, yeah, I know why I didn't ask you. What's the best advice someone gave you when you wanted to give up, Glenn?
I just, Don's made a comment that no one answered the way I was raised. When I was thinking, what I just said before to the previous question was a direct role model from my mum and dad. Because I've never been in that place where I'm going to give up, but I've been in a pretty low place.
Yeah.
Where I was at the end of my week, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I knew I had to get off the floor, and I would do it. But my parents knew that I was a huge pain in the ass, and if they tried to tell me what to do or give me advice, I would be very resistant, because I'm quite a rebel at heart.
Right.
Yeah, a lot. So they knew that I would not take that kind of stuff very kindly. Oh, geez, what a pain in the ass I was. Oh, geez. Anyway, but yeah, it's true. So they gave up on the advice and said, look, we're just here for you. Whatever you need, whatever you want, our door is always open. You come to us. You never hesitate.
Wow.
And that's love. And really, I mean, it's just amazing that someone would say that to you. That's exactly what I parroted.
Yeah.
In my response. So I'm just saying, well, take my hat off to mum and dad. I think that was beautiful. I probably didn't say it to them while they were alive, but I do think so.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I think they know. I think they know. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of tonight's broadcast. Thank you for taking the time out of your Easter holiday, if you celebrate that. And if you don't, then just thank you for taking time out of your Sunday to be with us on this episode of True Story Live. Thank you, Nez, for taking the time to do the write-up. It was a very wonderful broadcast with a lot of great questions. A couple of them really, really made me think. Hadn't been things I had thought about from that perspective. For everyone out there, I think the overall message is perseverance is important, and just to keep at it, whatever it is, and that you are worth. Everyone listening is worth doing something that is enjoyable to you. And if you feel like giving up, reach out to someone you never know what tomorrow brings, and something that today that seems like there isn't any way out. Biblically speaking, his mercies start new every day. And I have found that to be true. Sometimes a good night's sleep can change your perspective, and then a fresh start, a fresh day. Everything from yesterday is gone. Everything fades, and you can have a new perspective tomorrow. So hopefully that's helpful to someone. All right. So lastly, I'll read the quote again, if I can pull it up. There it is. Be brave, take risks. Nothing can substitute experience. And that's by our friend Paulo Coelho. There you go. Yeah, this has been a great broadcast, as I said. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Hope everyone has had a good weekend. Hope everyone enjoys their week, and we'll be back again next Sunday for another episode of True Story Live. This has been Keep On Keepin On. Take a chance to listen to the song that Nez picked for the broadcast, Keep On Keepin On by Michael Nesmith, a former member of the well-known group named the Monkees, and also one of Nez's favorite monkey of favorite band, Monkees. All right. Good night, everyone. And let's hear from Jen. Jen, take a minute to say goodbye to everyone. And if you have any closing comments, please make them.
All right. It was a great write-up, Nez. Really appreciated the questions. Sometimes I hate that I go in cold, but I don't know. I just like that better. But I just tend to, especially with such good questions, I tend to putter out a little bit. I'm like, wait. I got to think through. I got to go through my mind files, my mind warehouse. Like, which one do I want to pick? So I don't end up talking forever like Cripps. I'm just kidding. I love you. Anyway, this is a great write-up, great broadcast. I really appreciate the comments in the chat, guys. As always, like we say many times, we're just not here to hear ourselves talk. We really do love y'all's feedback and your participation. It's wonderful, and it helps all of us just be more well-rounded people. We like getting to know you guys. So have a great week. Happy Easter for those that celebrate, and love to you guys all. If you have any prayer requests, send them in the chat, or you can email us if they're more private. But hope you guys have a great week. See you next Sunday.
Thank you, Jen. All right, Glenn, take a minute to say goodbye to the peoples. And if you have any closing comments, please make them.
I shall say good night. Look forward to be here next week. And when I was growing up, my mum, who was not religious, we wouldn't eat meat on Good Friday. So guess what? I even made salmon and ate salmon on Friday.
Oh, wow!
Nice, love salmon.
Wow.
I maintained the tradition of the family.
Nice,
wonderful.
I thought that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I've talked about this before, but my mom, who was not Catholic, she did practice Lent, and I was flabbergasted by it. I said, Mom, you're not Catholic. And she said, well, I think it's important to every once in a while to give something up that means something to you for a good purpose, and that was her view on it, and so that ties into, made me think of her. What you just said, Glenn. So thanks for sharing. Nez, please take a minute to say goodbye to everyone. If you have any closing comments, please make them, and close us down if you would, please.
You got it. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Thank you to everybody who lurked and did not participate in the chat, and thank you to everyone who catches the replay. If you would, please take a moment to share it out on your social media if you're so inclined. And if you have any comments, thoughts, suggestions for things to talk about on TSL, or you have prayer requests, please reach out to us, please, and thank you. Thank you, guys. You guys all did so well, and I was a little bit hesitant tonight. I didn't know but I persisted. I've had persistence and did the write-up as was, and you guys knocked it out of the park as always with your answers. And I learned some things about each of you tonight. So that was a little extra treat. Thank
That's
you
cool.
so much. Yeah, really. I learned some things about each of you I didn't know before.
Huh.
So how cool is
Wonderful.
that?
That's
Yes.
very
Solid.
cool.
And thank you, Bobby, for coming. I didn't know she was going to show up. Bobby's going to be a grandma. Thought I'd shout that out to the world while I have your ear.
Oh, congrats, Bobby.
Yes. Her daughter's pregnant with twins. How cool
Oh
is
my
that?
goodness. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Pretty
So
cool.
keep her and her daughter and her future grandbabies in your prayers and thoughts, please, and thank
Oh,
you.
sure. Sure.
So don't give
Absolutely.
up. Don't give up. Each of us have been through our own certain kinds of trials and situations. And even though we're not you, you're not us, but we have certain experiences in common. And if you need any kind of help, please reach out for help. Don't ever be guilted or shamed or given into fear of reaching out for help, because whatever you're going through, there are people out there to listen and point you in the right direction. So don't fall for that deception that you're alone, because you're not. So
Right.
thank you for mentioning that earlier, Crips. All right, I am looking forward to next Sunday, where God willing, we'll all be here for another rip snorting session of good conversation here on A True Story Live. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, blessed week. Good night, and God bless.